Bloomington's production just went down 50% for tomorrow. That's what people don't
Welcome into After the Game Indiana Basketball with special guest Brian Evans. Later, we're expecting to have JMV on with us. Brought to you, of course, by our great friends at Southern Stone Restaurant here in Bloomington and Aurora Specialty Sleep Clinic. Southern Stone Restaurant located in Bloomington, Patterson, and Rogers. Each Monday night, of course, at 7:05. Don Fisher and Mike Woodson. You can catch Inside Indiana Basketball. Brian, thanks a lot for joining us, brother. Appreciate you.
Happy to be here, Jim. How you doing, man?
Is he frozen? He's got the collapse up. The collapse is the appropriate word tonight. You put in there for the name Indiana. Well, we'd be better off, of course, if we were getting to talk about a win, but always getting a chance to talk to you is great. Indiana had an unbelievable opportunity tonight. Even though they were shorthanded, they stayed in this game. They did the things they needed to do. They hung around. And at the last couple of possessions of this game where they had an opportunity to really put it away, there were two possessions where they gave up, that they didn't score, and gave up those 4 points. That to me was the difference in the game for Indiana.
Yeah, that one stings, Jim. That is, they had to have it. And Ohio State's a team that's been struggling. And so, we'll see what happens from here, but you feel like Ohio State's going to get a little momentum from getting back on track and getting the W. That's a heartbreaker for Indiana, though. Like you said, they played well enough, held a lead. They just, you hate to say it because it's such a deflated feeling, but they can't close out a game. They don't know how to do it. Like they look panicky. I hate to say it, but they just look nervous, and we move the ball around like nobody really wants the ball. You gotta. Jay Billis said it best in the last home game. You can't have empty possessions, and we continue to have empty possessions in critical times of a game where we don't get a shot off, or it's not the shot we're looking for. It's like a rushed shot. This is getting pretty frustrating. I feel like we've seen this play before.
Yeah, Indiana was shorthanded tonight, especially at guard play. We knew that Xavier Johnson and Parker Stewart was going to have to not only be an integral part of this game, but they were going to have to stay out of foul trouble so they could stay in the game, but also hit shots and do what they need to do. Unfortunately, Xavier Johnson, 3 of 12 tonight. He does score 16 points because he killed it at the free throw line. He got to the line 10 of 10 there. So you got to give it to him there. Unfortunately, Trace Jackson Davis, only 3 of 9 on the night, shooting from the field, and 7 of 13 at the free throw line. Just not a great night for Trace Jackson Davis.
No. This is getting to be a recurring theme. I felt like this is what we've seen since his first season. He really struggles against length and athleticism, and that's what the Big Ten is. Basically every team you're going to go up against, minus maybe a Rutgers or minus a Northwestern, has really good length and athleticism in the paint. And he struggles, against Purdue. He struggles in those games where there's guys defending the basket and he can't go through them. Tonight was one of those nights. He wants to bang, bump and then shoot in the post. And these guys are bigger than that. He can't dominate him with his physical nature. And in these games he goes from being 6'10" to me looking like he's 6'6" when he's playing against length, and that's not a good thing. To me, it's like he's got to have something else to his game. He starts looking so one-dimensional because he can't make that jump shot. there's so many opportunities. If he had that 15 to 18-foot face-up jumper, it could keep the defense honest. But things get bogged down for us, and we don't get the looks that we want. And I think that's a big part of it. Is he's really not been able to expand his game and get out of the lane at all.
Parker Stewart tonight, the night that Indiana probably wishes he would have every game out. He only scores 11 points, but he's 4 of 9 shooting, 3 of 4 from behind the arc. Didn't get to the free throw line, but he hits the threes in 31 minutes. He gives them some points there and some production, but they're not getting enough production around other guys. 7 points. He was only 2 of 8, 1 of 5 from behind the arc in 29 minutes. They just aren't getting that extra production when someone like Trace Jackson-Davis is struggling. Race Thompson does what he does always. He had another night, 13 points and 9 rebounds. But I wonder if that is partly laying off of Trace Jackson-Davis and giving that up as long as they're not getting killed from the perimeter.
I think so. I think I think Race Thompson is a guy that could play on any team in college basketball. There's something about him, he brings it every single time. It's really consistent. He's gonna be close to a double every game, and I do think things open up for him because the defense is so focused on Trace. But he's earned it now. I mean, now he's doing it. It's not like the other team hasn't scouted him. They know he's in the scouting report, and he stays consistent. There's just not enough backcourt action. There's not enough guys looking to take shots, in my opinion. I mean, JMV, how you doing, buddy? I see you there.
Hey, good to see you. Hey, guys.
We're going to see
this conversation, man.
We got JMV on. We're going to have fun now. Now it hasn't been much fun, so now we'll have some fun at least.
Yeah, I honestly, guys, it's good to see you. Good to talk with you. I heard what Brian was saying about the backcourt, and you know what, Brian, you get in a situation like that, you're in the final minute, you have the ball, you're up 4. That's a game, but you got to put away, home, on the road, or anyway, and then you just look at the myriad of mistakes they made that final 60 seconds. They're mistakes, Brian, that should not be made this time of year, without a doubt, and it's just incredibly disappointing to watch that go down.
No, it is. And, I somebody told me, I didn't hear this clip live, but somebody was saying that Coach Woodson said, I got to teach him how to close out games and how to win. It hadn't happened yet because, and I was deflated watching him walk off the court because when you have that 4-point lead and you have that much time on the clock, you run out the game, right? You're not going to give them anything easy. And you're definitely not going to give their best player a wide open layup. And you saw Woody come off the bench and get upset with Race Thompson, but you know that they got to go through your chest with that much time on the clock. There's not going to be a layup, and this team they don't understand that. And when we go into overtime, as we walk off the court in the end of regulation, I didn't think we'd lose by 11. But I did not like our chances, and that sucks. Yeah. I mean, that's when you've got a team that really does not know how to play in late game situations, and they just don't.
And Brian, to play off of that as well, they were down 10 in the second half and just willed themselves back in the game and got that lead, only to have that just melt down in the final minute. You look for good points. You look for you talk about Mike Woodson. I got to teach these guys how to close games. You look for these moments, but unfortunately, it's like that 2 steps forward, 3 steps back with these guys because they give you 3 reasons why you don't believe in what's going on in this team. After giving you 2 reasons to really feel good about it earlier in that second half.
I see him hustling. It's not like it's brutal to watch when they scrap and they fight, but the offense to me just looks so basic. Yeah. And, I'm constantly looking around the perimeter going, who's the guy,
Yeah.
How do we get a bucket? Who's going to get us a bucket in a critical, situation? And I still don't know who that guy is. You know, I
Well, I
look
don't think
around
he's
and
on the team. I don't think that they have that guy. And we've all season long, there have been so many games where they've needed that bucket, that shot. And I'm like, that guy doesn't, he just doesn't exist on this team. Unfortunately, it seems at this moment.
Yeah, you know, hey, you guys, is this reminiscent at all? Like with the season we saw go down the drain a year ago? I mean, is there anything we can look to this season, the way it's unraveling right now to, year number 4 of Archie Miller a year ago? Because that also, to me, guys, is very discouraging because I expected this team to maybe get things into gear this time of year. And it's almost looking reminiscent of what we have seen in the past 4 years, and especially last year in the final one with Archie Miller. You guys agree with that at all?
It's very similar, and it's even more similar to his first season. I think they lost their last 6 and had to win, had to beat Ohio State in the first game of the Big Ten tournament, which they were not able to do, which is a situation they're probably are now in now. They still have to win. They have to beat Rutgers at home. They have to beat Minnesota on the road. There's another team game I'm losing on that is one that they have to win. And then I think that they're probably going to have to win a game in the Big Ten tournament now.
Right. Well, I mean, I think you have to play exceedingly well in the Big Ten tournament, and then you really have to win out to even go 500 right now, I believe, right, Jim? So the way that it looks, and this is a team, and you get a Rutgers team. That's the type of team. Even though they lost to Purdue yesterday, man, Rutgers just brings it and continues to come at you. That's what impresses me about them. They got Ron Harper Jr., who's not a superstar, but a good player. They have good players that just grind and keep after you. And this is what this IU team, Brian, they don't have. I mean, these guys will go away, and they'll go away for an extended period of time. That's also discouraging to me.
Well, I could get a little weird because this is all to me. This is a snowball effect from the Northwestern game, and I got to be real honest with you guys. I lost. I don't want to be a negative, personality here, but I lost so much enthusiasm, and I haven't gotten it back. Yeah. Like I just cannot believe. And you can't sugarcoat this, and you can't be soft about these guys. I mean, we brought in some transfers that are, veteran players, and one in particular that really bothers me is Parker Stewart. I'm having a real hard time rooting for him. The fact that he played for his father, and he should have a different perspective on what a coach's life is like, and trying to motivate young guys to play and to do things the right way. I just can't get over the fact that Woody brought these guys in here, Durr and him and Xavier, to lead and say, hey guys, we want you to be the foundation of our rebuild and the reconstruction of Indiana basketball. I cannot get over the fact that they thought that was a good move to sneak out and run around in 10-degree weather in Chicago. I just can't get over it, and I want to, but I just think that they just took a dump on the season, and it's just really hard for me to root for them now when I think that we all care more than they do.
Well, and that's a big part of the problem too, because I don't think that was the first time that happened. That was the reason why you saw it go down the way that it did. And Brian, I mean, you played in the program. You played at such a high level in that program. That, to me, gives all the appearances of you got 3 guys that just don't care. They don't care about their program. They don't care about Indiana across their chest. And that's going to piss everybody off in this state, and especially somebody like you who left so much on the floor as a former player there.
Well, thanks. I mean, but the truth is this: is I grew up, you know my story, both you guys. I grew up a huge fan, and then just got lucky and stroke of luck and blessed to be able to play there. And now I go back to being a fan, and I'm not the same fan I was when I was a kid, because I just I feel the gravity of how important it is to so many people in the state of Indiana during my playing years. Just to the kids I interacted with, and the old ladies, and it's just so big. And so when we bring in guys from far away, that's on the coaching. That's on Mike Woodson to get them to understand what it means to be representing that fan base, and they don't get it. So somebody failed, and let's just put it on him. They didn't understand it, and I can promise you, playing for Coach Knight, you got to understand this. In that time of the season when they went to Northwestern, number one, you'd pay such a heavy price. I'm trying to think how I want to say this. You would pay such a heavy price if you did something wrong and screwed up and cost the team a game or let alone a season. You just knew you would never do that. You didn't have to worry about guys sneaking out. That was not on the agenda ever. But I got to tell you this: if I ever got word of anything like that as a sophomore to senior, when I felt like I was a team captain, they would have had to hide that from me, because I would have gone and put the whooping on them myself. The season was hanging in the balance, and these guys decided to go out and run around and act like idiots, and take two really young guys with them. That's the worst kind of leadership I've ever seen. You got three veteran guys that transferred in, and they took our two young kids out there and took them with them. I can't forgive them. It's really hard for me to even root for this team at this point in time. I think it's so disgusting.
Well, and on top of that, you can see that lack of leadership transfers onto the court, because there is no leadership there, and they're still suffering the same problems today that they did 2 months ago. This team has just not improved. They're not better. As a matter of fact, they almost look a step back than where they were in late December, even when they played Ohio State the first time. They played them very well tonight, but they could have won and just didn't, because they didn't do the simple things at the end of the game and made simple mistakes. And then once they make mistakes, like in the Wisconsin game, Mike Woodson even said they froze. Why are they freezing? Why are you not prepared and ready for the opportunities that come before you to win the game and seize the opportunity? That's what I don't understand at this juncture, to take a word from Don Fisher, but his favorite word. But at this point of the season, why are they still looking like it's late November instead of late February?
It's all too familiar, Brian. I mean, it is. It's all too familiar. I would have never thought, being a longtime IU follower since I was born, basically, I would have never thought that we were going to be going through with this program the pitfalls in which the last 6 years and what they have gone through. And, honestly, you go back about a month plus or so, you thought, what, the corner is being turned. And then in the last month, I mean, you just backpedal to a point where it's so reminiscent of what we have seen the past 4 years under Archie Miller. Part of the reason why fan base got angry, Brian, part of the reason why the fan base then just kind of disconnected, didn't know when the games were, didn't care anymore until Scott Dolson made that change for Mike Woodson. And unfortunately, we enter a time of season when it's so important for this program to get back on track, make an NCAA tournament. And that looks like an incredible long shot at this point. And it couldn't be more disappointing to me than what we have seen in the last month from this basketball team and this program.
Yeah, this is tough. I mean, I'm struggling to want to watch the games and, finding other things to do, as it's sitting on in the first half. And I can't, I'm not behind the guys like I want to be. I really want to be. I hope that sounds authentic. I'm struggling to care, because I have such a problem with those guys prioritizing things the way they did in a critical game. I mean, so the Big Ten, that's the way it is. Like, I can think back to my last season. Every game was everything on the line. These last 6-7 Big Ten games, that's where your whole season is made, is in those last 6-7 games. And to think that, you lose a home game, right? And it used to be we never lost at home. So it's like, okay, we gave one away. It was to a ranked team. Now, I was at that game, the Illinois game, and we just stopped playing. I mean, we just, at the 12-minute mark, we just said, okay, we've done enough. We're just going to stop playing. So you give that away, but you're supposed to know that when you make that, you get off that plane in Evanston, it's like the whole season is right now. The whole season. You can't lose this game to the bottom tier team of the Big Ten. So it's like, okay, now we're on the road. We have to win this game. I just can't believe that with the coaching staff that we have, and I gotta believe that that locker room vibe is everything is on the line right now. To think that guys said, you know what, let's go out and cut loose and have some fun. I cannot believe it, and I can't recover from it, man. It's so disappointing to me, and it just went away. Season goes on, no one's talking about it anymore. But when the starting lineup comes up and I'm looking at some of those guys that did that, I just can't root for them. I'm done.
Let's take a quick break and get to something positive for a second. JMV, luckily you don't have to talk about IU basketball every day on the Fan in the afternoon, and I'm sure that anyone who's listening now knows exactly who JMV is.
I get to talk about the Pacers and the Colts too. Yeah, Jim, it's a blast. You guys want to do some sports talk? It's a blast.
Trust me, I have Kristen Ari and Matt Taylor on each week as well. So it was not a fun year, but I guess for the Pacers, everyone looking towards the future. But yeah, JMV, everyone knows JMV from the afternoons here on the Fan. Thank you a lot we can't tell you how much I appreciate you joining us. Wanting to have you on our show for a long time anyway, but it's an awesome thrill to have you on with us tonight.
I appreciate you asking. And hey, listen, any friend of Mike Ross and Tracy Hardesty is a friend of mine. Let me tell you that. Two of the best dudes ever.
And Brian, of course, with Aurora Specialty Sleep Clinic. If you're in the business field, you know that's what he does now. Besides coming on here and hanging out in a recliner. As a matter of fact, I heard JMV talking about it the other day. JMV is a user. I use it as well. Aurora Specialty Sleep Clinic. If you have problems snoring or sleeping, how's it work for you?
It works awesome for me. And I've told Brian and Steve this a number of times. I tried everything. I did sleep studies. I mean, I look like, if you remember the film A Clockwork Orange, when Malcolm McDowell had his eyeballs, his eyelids were propped open with toothpicks and stuff. I mean, that was me. I did all this different medical crap, and nothing ever worked. And I still struggle with snoring. And it got progressively worse as I got older. And then, Brian heard me talking about it one day, and he said, hey, we got this thing at the Aurora Sleep Clinic. It's a simple mouthpiece that you wear at night. It's very affordable. You wear that and see how it does. And my snoring has disappeared. And I tell you, getting proper bed rest now compared to what I did prior to utilizing Aurora Sleep Clinic, it's not even close. I mean, it's not even close. I feel better. I feel refreshed. I used to be getting tired midday. I don't have to worry about that now. I mean, I can stay up a little bit longer now because, even when I'm getting older in my advanced age. But no, it has made a world of difference. And a shout out to Brian Evans for sending me down this track because it's worked great.
And Dr. Steve Green, of course, Bob Knight's first recruit. Yeah, I hold it up every day on the show. It just sits. It fits in what I call a teeth whitening tray.
Yeah,
If you went to the dentist, it's a teeth whitening tray, and as a matter of fact, when you have it in, you can. If you just have your mouth closed, no one would even know you have it in. But it's amazing, and you can take it with you. It's so easy. You don't have to plug it in and all that stuff. It's amazing that it does what it does, and I use it as well. And I can also tell you, it certainly helped me as well. I had a friend of mine who was a doctor one night, and I woke up and he's like, "Dude, I thought you died 10 times last night."
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding. And he's a doctor friend of mine. So I've been using this ever since as well. So I cannot recommend it enough. So stop by Aurora Specialty Sleep Clinic. They're there in Indianapolis, or you can look them up, AuroraSpecialtySleep.com, and go see Dr. Steve Green. And you can also make sure you listen to JMV, of course, if you're not already in the afternoons, which everybody already is, the best afternoon show that's going. How long have you been doing that show?
I've been. This is my 10th, going on 11th year at Emma's Downtown, and I did 5 years, I think, prior to that at WNDE, which was then Clear Channel, now iHeartRadio, same building where Q95 is. I actually started back in 2000 as a producer for Mark Patrick. I did that for 4 years with Mark. And then I took over in November of '04. In fact, 2 weeks before the brawl back in 2004. And yeah, I've been doing it ever since. So I did 5 years by myself, at WNDE, and then took about 6 months off and prepared to come over to Emmis. And I've been doing it for 11 really fun years. And I'm looking for that success again. You know what's funny about sports talk, and Jim, you could probably know this as well, is it is better. People always think, the negativity, that's really what stirs the entire show. You get everybody stirred up and mad, and that's better for your ratings. In this market, it's not. I mean, honestly, it isn't, because people get tired of the constant complaining and the constant negativity. I mean, initially, when you tell it like it is, people are cool with it and they understand it. But man, these people will change a channel if it's consistent. And that's what we got to get back. We got to see these sports teams get back on track. And, I know obviously if you're watching, Purdue, for example, if you're a fan of the Boilermakers, you're happy with what they're doing, but there's just not a great deal of happiness besides that for people around here to watch and then to respond to and to be proud of right now. These programs, these professional teams need to get back on track, if for nothing else, to give some fans some positivity, because it feels like forever. I mean, honestly, it has felt like forever for the Pacers. And I know the Colts made the postseason a year ago, but the way that they melted down in those final 2 weeks of the regular season with everything on the line, I mean, you kind of erased everything that happened that was positive this year. And then, the Pacers are, in the rebuild mode right now. So, yeah, it would be great if these teams would get back into gear a little bit, because people get sick and tired at some point of all the negativity. And really, without the negativity, what else are we talking about? Because that's just, basically how these teams have been playing for the most part.
Yeah, and no one ripped Archie Miller more than I did for the last 2.5 years for obvious reasons, and it wasn't fun, because there was nothing positive to talk about, and so I have purposely stayed away from that this entire season and trying. And damn, it's getting hard because of what the very beginning what you said. This is so reminiscent. It's like, damn it, here we are again.
What's shocking to me is, I mean, you watch some of these other teams be up, go back down, and now they're back up again, right? I mean, look what happened in Arizona, and look what Arizona's doing right now. I mean, you're up, and then your coach gets canned, and now you're back up again. And it seems like IU was up, went down, and they've been down for stinking ever right now. I mean, when are they ever going to get back up? And I don't blame IU fans, and especially guys like Brian that have played there too, for saying, hey, it's time to stop looking like this. I mean, it really is, regardless of Mike Woodson or Archie Miller or Tom Crean or whomever, it's time to stop looking like this. And I mean, mid to late February, and have that final minute of regulation in a game that you had to have tonight. I mean, it's just kind of the same old song and dance, Brian.
Yeah, I'm not being, I don't think I'm being hard on him.
No, you're not.
If I flipped on the TV and it was Austin P versus Middle Tennessee State, and I saw that swing late in the game, I'd think, geez, that team just handed the game away. They didn't have the courage to go win a game. So it's not that I'm attacking Indiana basketball. I really don't think I am.
No,
you're handing games away, and there's just no courage at the end of the game. It's driving me crazy. You know what? And it's fair to say, listen, everybody wanted a former player. I was not in that camp of like, let's get a former player, because he used to wear that uniform. Well, that doesn't equal, winning, that anybody used to play there. I can tell you right now, I'm not impressed at all with his late game clipboard production. I mean, when we get a timeout, I think it's a great way to judge a coach. What do they do after a timeout? On the PGA Tours, what do they do after a bogey? And Tiger Woods is the best of all time statistically. What did he do after he made a bogey? Because he buckled down. And he's like, I'm not going to do that. Or with coaching in basketball is, what do you do at a timeout? What that first possession after a timeout? What do you produce? And I look at that because I think my former coach was one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time, at getting a team to execute late game, especially after a timeout. I mean, we're handing the ball away, we toss it out of bounds. We don't get the shot that we're looking for. Again, maybe some of it's personnel stuff, but so far, I mean, I don't have any reason not to say it. It to me, it hasn't been impressive.
And what do they do this year now with what they have? I mean, what they are is what they are. As Dennis Green says, or whoever said your record is, you are what your record says you are. That was Bill Parcells, but they are what they are after what we've seen to this length of time. They only have four or 5 games remaining to even still try to salvage this. And to say that is to try to have some kind of hope and put a positive spin on it, but they're not giving us much to make that leap.
No, they're not, and that's what's unfortunate about it too. As I mentioned, about a month prior, maybe a little over a month ago now. I mean, I think people were starting feeling good. It's funny. I don't know if you were there or not, Brian, but that Purdue game. I mean, you thought this is the springboard that was necessary. I mean, after 9 consecutive losses, you get back on the winning track. You get a very tough Purdue team at home. And then, basically after that, it has been a hell of a lot more misses when swinging than anything else. And, you add into that Northwestern situation. And then I think also, Brian, you mentioned this just out of today, but, boy, there have been some late game collapses, right? Late game collapses. You question a lot of things. You've been questioning the coaching, rightly so. You question how you utilize the transfer portal because a lot of folks believe that to be a gold mine, but it hasn't worked out that way at all. I mean, we've been talking about, Parker Stewart and Xavier Johnson and Michael Durr, but Miller Kopp, Brian, was brought in here to shoot threes. He can shoot threes, but he doesn't do a lot of making of threes. I mean, utilizing the transfer portal in this era of college basketball is important. IU dove into it head first, and I'd be hard pressed to find anything that's worked out of that to this point. To me, it's been incredibly detrimental.
Yeah, I had a conversation with somebody about the transfer portal the other day, and how the trickle down. It's in all sports, right? So I've got daughters that are playing high school volleyball, and that trickle down is scholarship availability is hurting high school kids. And so that was kind of the genesis of this conversation I was in. And I got to tell you, I said this, I got a problem with guys that are leaving like the transfer portal. If I'm a coach, I'm going to say, why is this guy running away? Why is he leaving? Is it not good enough for him? Is he looking for greener pastures? I mean, I think if you're Mike Woodson now, you got to be a little more hesitant, and you got to pump the brakes a little bit on this. Everybody thinking that there's, all this availability in the transfer portal. Why? I mean, where's the loyalty? I wouldn't have wanted to play anywhere. If I was playing well in Indiana and, everybody in the world wanted me, why would I want to leave Indiana? Like, I would have been happy there. And I think everybody's looking for, this gold at the end of the rainbow. And, here we're looking at these guys that Xavier Johnson's the one, he seems to piss off a lot of people, and he drives me crazy. And I don't think he should be taking late game shots at all. But the guy's got some moxie and plays hard and plays physical and at least tries to, bang his body around and impose his will on the other team. But the rest of these guys, and I'll throw Race Thompson in there. But outside of that, we get soft, and we get soft really fast, and it's just not a lot of fun to watch. The transfer portal is, I think it's here to stay, and I think it's unfortunate because you're going to see so many people, hunting for a greener pasture and a better promise from a program, and I think it contributes to, the coaches, just becoming soft, and they can't be hard on guys because guys will just leave. And, again, I feel I feel kind of old school when it comes to that because, one of the things I know Coach Knight always wanted to do is he's trying to flush guys out, like he's trying to sniff it out. Like if you're not all in, if you're not, ready to jump in the trench and go to war, then he didn't even want you on the team. So he would have flushed you out in a minute. Now I feel like it's the opposite. You're trying to acquiesce to these young guys and give them what they want, tell them what they want. and not be honest with them, because it's just that I'm at a level of frustration, and it could be the weather, man. I mean, I'm here in Indiana. It's the middle of February. I'm struggling. I got a little bit of moodiness going on with the weather, but man, I'm frustrated.
Well,
Yeah.
as you said, the transfer portal, of course, unfortunately, Indiana will have to hit it again next year if Trace Jackson Davis leaves. And they will have to hit a grand slam home run with that, because he's going to be a centerpiece of the team. Now, they have other pieces that are coming in that are hopefully going to alleviate some of the problems at guard with Jalen Hood-Schifino, CJ Gunn, guys like that. But they're freshmen. You can't pin all your hopes on freshmen, but they are pieces coming in to where they are lacking right now.
Yeah, you know what? You look back at that game tonight too, and I want to play off what Brian said about Xavier Johnson, because I mean he takes the brunt of the IU fans' negativity. There's no doubt, but the moxie that Brian's talked about, he does have that. When you think about this game, he turned the ball over 5 times in like the first 6 minutes of the game. Got taken out. I don't believe he turned the ball over. Doesn't mean he made great decisions the entirety of the time, but at least he didn't get a stat where he turned the ball over the rest of the game. Part of his issue to me is, and Brian, I agree with you on, he'll get up and guard somebody. He'll try to guard somebody. He does have that moxie, and he does at times show toughness, physical toughness that others don't. The problem is at the end of games, you saw Chris Holtman did this. Greg Gard did this for Wisconsin. They just dare him to shoot. They pack it in and say, listen, we may lose this game, but it's going to be because you're going to knock down a jumper. It's not going to be because Trace is going to get it 5 free throw bucket, turn to his right shoulder, and shoot a left-handed half hook. And that is such a struggle with not just him, with this team. I mean, they don't have shot-making ability. We don't have shot-making ability, Brian. That's one thing, as you know. But shot-making ability down the stretch, final minute of a game when you really need to try to put it away, or you try to get to the free throw line and knock them down, where you miss, 9 free throws in this game tonight over in Columbus as well. I mean, the recipe for winning, or maybe I should better say this, the diagram for winning, or the blueprint for winning, you have such a thin line between the mistakes that you can make, because you just don't have the type of team that can make up for those mistakes. And I think we saw that in its entirety, especially in that final minute and into overtime at Columbus tonight.
Yeah, speaking of Xavier Johnson, ironically, he hit more free throws than the rest of the Indiana team combined.
Yeah.
He was 10 of 10 at the line. Trace Jackson Davis hit 7 of 13. And then Anthony Leal missed both of his attempts, which that was disappointing to see Anthony get a shot again and to miss 2 free throws. I'm sure that's a lot of pressure coming in, but he's had 2 opportunities here with this game and the Northwestern game, and we haven't really seen him come through, I guess. Not that I'm saying that it's on his shoulders, but those are opportunities. And Brian, I'm sure you know that you played with guys that when they get an opportunity, man, if they shine, that's how they're going to get to play.
Well, you gotta remember this. You can't underestimate one of the things when you were talking, John, that jumped out to me is playing off of Xavier, and I didn't think they were playing super soft off of him. I mean, you prefer him to shoot than to drive, but he doesn't really attack the basket. I watched some of these other teams, and certainly with Wisconsin, with Johnny Davis and what he did to us late game, is like he just is going. I'm going to get into the lane, and then I'm going to make stuff happen in the lane. It doesn't mean I'm going to get in the lane and throw some runner up. I'm going to get in there, and now I'm going to get close to the rim. I'll drop it off to somebody, but I'm putting pressure on the defense. I don't see us putting a bunch of pressure on the defense. And what I think the recipe is to stop us is you've got 2. You can't have 2 guys on the court that are non-shooters. So Trace will not shoot a shot outside of 15, and Xavier Johnson does not want to shoot a shot outside of 17 feet. Those are your 2 primary guys, and they don't want to shoot. So that's a tough recipe. I can remember we had Chris Reynolds back a million years ago when I played, and he was a great point guard and a great defender, but not a guy that wanted to shoot. And I can remember how different that was in our offense when whoever was defending Chris at the top of the key could fall down into the key, and be about 15 to 17 feet out. And as we're running our offense and I'm curling into the lane, I'm coming off a down screen, curling into the lane, you could feel that presence of that defender near you. And it would bog things down and clog things up. So we have two of our primary guys that will not shoot, and that clogs things up for the rest of those guys. So what really frustrates me is that Parker Stewart apparently is a shooter. I keep being told this for the whole season, but we don't run plays for him. He's just kind of playing off and trying to find a shot here and there, but he's a defensive liability, doesn't rebound, and doesn't create offense off the dribble. Same thing with Miller Kopp. Those guys are the same guy. Miller Kopp, I would be trying to run some plays for those two guys early in the game and see if you could get them on, you gauge whether or not they're going to make shots that night. And if they're not, then it's just, and I'm going energy guys. I'm going Galloway all night long. I'm going to go with energy guys. I'm going to go with Geronimo and bring guys in to have some length and some, pep to their step. Because having two, guys that maybe are good in, shooting in the game of horse, that's not enough. When we have two primary guys that don't shoot, it just clogs up the game so bad. And that's what I feel like we're watching is just like this, we don't make the defense work hard at all. I mean, a great Bob Knight line was be hard to guard. He would say that to me all the time. I mean, coming out of the locker room, going onto the court, he may just grab my jersey and go, hey, be hard to guard tonight. And I don't know that we have anybody that's really hard to guard.
Yep, guys, I'm going to keep you all night. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you taking the time to sit in with us. I know JMV's got to get up very early for that 3:00 show, so we got to make sure he gets that rest with.
He's going to get to his sleep zone, man. He's getting ready. He's got to prepare to sleep. That's what he's doing.
I got to go to sleep, guys. No doubt about that. Got
to get that Aurora. Got to get that Aurora device out.
Yes,
JMV, thank you, brother. Appreciate you so much.
Yeah.
Make sure.
Thanks for the plugs. Guys,
Tune in to JMV on The Fan tomorrow, every day at 3:00. Thanks, JMV. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate you.
And, of course, thanks to Brian Evans as well. You bet, brother. Thank you. And, of course, thanks to the great Brian Evans, former Indiana basketball player, for joining us tonight as well. Appreciate him, as always, for joining us. Most importantly, thanks to you guys. Make sure you look up Aurora Specialty Sleep Clinic there in Indianapolis. And make sure you tune in to JMV. It's each weekday at 3:00 on The Fan in Indianapolis. And don't forget about our friends at Southern Stone Restaurant and Cabello on the Square in Bloomington, a new Italian place that is phenomenal. We'll be back tomorrow to do this all again. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.